Welcome, everyone. We have 1 hour. Hopefully, you can stay until the end and that you find this webinar useful. I will begin with a brief introduction to explain why and how we conducted this study. And then I will share with you the highlight key insights from both the market research and the Champions Radar, which are the documents that we developed from this research. I will conclude with some general reflections based on what we learned, based on the outcomes, and I will share with you also what are the upcoming plans, the next steps from ARC Europe, and the possible next steps for you as well. So let me start with the introduction by explaining why we developed this study. So we know that the chemical industry is increasingly focused on creating more sustainable products because the companies believe that offering alternatives with a lower carbon footprint at a competitive price will provide a significant advantage. But today, the green premiums remain high and the carbon taxes are still low, so products with a lower carbon footprint tend to be more expensive. But we know that with time, government will keep on pushing through legislation, making standards products more expensive, and companies will start to lower the cost of the green premiums by scaling up technologies. For us, there is a clear race towards decarbonization between companies in the chemical industry. We know that those that will offer lower carbon products at the same price as the standard ones will have a competitive advantage for sure. So major chemical companies are already defining their decarbonization roadmaps and taking the initial steps. And we know that they are looking for solution providers to help them reach their goals as soon as possible. So our goal with this study is to provide, hopefully for you, valuable insights for those that are shaping their next strategic moves in relation to sustainability and specifically talking about decarbonization. So because of the complexity of the challenge, we decided to structure our approach following the golden circle from Simon Sinek. So first, we explore the why. So why are chemical companies investing in decarbonization? We wanted to understand what are the business drivers behind their investments. Next, we focus on the how. So how are chemical companies planning to achieve their objective? We went and researched the decarbonization roadmap for many major chemical companies that are operating worldwide. And finally, we wanted to know the what. So what technologies are these companies currently using or planning to use to meet their goals? So we started this process at the beginning of this year, actually. And our first task was to approach end users. These are people that are dealing directly or indirectly with decarbonization projects. And we explore with them the why, the how, and the what. So based on this interaction, we were able to define the scope of work, where we focus on the solutions that they were looking for or that they were already using. So the next step in the process was to explore what technologies, what solutions were offered by solution providers. In this case, you will see we focus mainly on automation companies, which are our main contacts in ARC. And based on that, we evaluated the markets by creating a quantitative research. That's a quantitative market research where we are showing the market share of solution providers across different revenue categories and market regions. And we also create a qualitative analysis that we represented as a champions radar that I will explain to you later on. So at the end, we created a study that was actually made together with asset owners and solution providers and, of course, the ARC analysts. So now we are at the stage that all these documents are being shared to all those end users that actually invested time on us. We promise it, so we are sharing all this information with them, and we are discussing the value of these documents with them. But of course, these documents are also for sale as standard ARC studies as well. But I don't think it ends here. I think we can keep on working based on the first results from this research. I think we can support end users to identify suppliers for the current challenges, or we can help solution providers, for example, to understand how they differentiate from their competitors, understand the strengths and weaknesses, and define actions based on the output from that. But I will come back to this later on the possible next steps that I was mentioning. So let me jump to the highlights on the market research. First, what I would like to share with you is the scope of work. So, as I mentioned, the scope was based on the interaction we had with end users. And we identified different applications and solutions they were interested. So, please keep in mind that this is a challenge that can cover so many topics. And there might be applications or technologies that were not covered that you think are relevant. So please don't hesitate to contact me or Mario, share your thoughts, and we can see also how to proceed with that. So first of all, of course, is about a net zero roadmap. So we discuss with the end users how they define their decarbonization roadmap, what kind of technologies they are using. We talk about emission measuring and reporting hardware and software. We talk about services that are helping them to define the decarbonization roadmap. We talk a lot about energy efficiency. I think this is today. This is I will say, their main priority. We discuss things like heat exchanger performance, or steam system performance, or combustion efficiency. What about energy management, smart AC drives? Compressed air performance. So with some highlighted other things than others. But most of the people that we discussed with, they were very focused on energy efficiency solutions. We also discussed about fugitive leaks. So, for example, solutions that are helping them to manage leaks from pressure relief valves, or solutions that are helping them to identify fugitive leaks in the plant so they are able to mitigate them as soon as possible. We also talk about energy transition, and specifically power to heat. And this is actually that you will find in most, if not all, the decarbonization roadmaps from major chemical companies. They start with energy efficiency, and right afterwards they are talking about energy transition. So things like investments in solar plants, or green ammonia, of course, hydrogen and wind, and a little bit less on nuclear and the usage of biofuels. And relation to power heat, they point out things like industrial heat pumps, or electric heaters, or electric boilers, energy storage. We also talk about treatment of byproducts. So we know that nitrogen oxides have much larger effects than CO2. So this was a concern. Treatment of nitrogen oxides or volatile organic compounds as well. We touch a little bit about carbon capture. We touch a little bit about alternative feedstocks. and also treatment at the end of life, not that much, but this is more about plastic recycling, for example. And I'll come back to this also later on. But this is, I wanted first to share with you all the topics that we discuss with the end users and the technologies or challenges that they share with us and that we took to define the scope of our work. Yeah? This is what we use to later develop the quantitative study and the qualitative study. So specifically talking about the quantitative analysis, how did we calculate this? In order to perform just need to do something. Yeah. In order to perform the quantitative analysis, we had to identify those specific technologies that were related to the applications and the solutions that I showed you before. So we then were able to gather information from our own studies and create a study that was focused on the topic that we wanted to focus on. So sadly, not all the topics, not all the applications were possible to be covered in the quantitative studies. They are topics that require much more comprehensive approach, like, for example, carbon capture or energy transition or recycling. And actually, we are thinking on performing new studies focused on these topics. These are the ideas also that I will share with you later on. But there were applications that, yes, we were able to cover through the quantitative studies. So, for example, take energy management as one example. We were considering the hardware, I think it's here, yeah. We consider energy meters for software. We pick our energy management software. And for services, we were talking about energy efficiency assessment. So we were picking this information from our own studies and bring them together. We also were able to cover other topics, a lot about energy efficiency, but also fugitive leaks, sustainability consulting as well, and other applications. So this is to give you also an idea of the scope of the quantitative study. What you will find in the study, you will have information about continuous emission monitoring systems, smart sensors, pressure transmitter, temperature transmitter, flow meter, gas analyzer, acoustic sensors, energy meters, industrial gateways. We are talking about everything is smart, and variable speed drives as well. In relation to software, we consider carbon accounting software, energy management software, as I told you, PSO software, process simulation and optimization. And we also consider libraries. So if the companies were offering libraries that are enabling end users to accelerate the implementation and the adoption of these tools. And in relation to services, we consider sustainability consulting, energy efficiency assessment, project services, and package solutions. I think the first two are clear. Project services means that if companies are including a service, not only the hardware or the software, but also the service that will ensure that the technology is implemented correctly. Yeah, I think this is very important in a topic like decarbonization, which requires a transformation sometimes in the process. And package solution is something that is very valued by end users. The fact that companies are offering a package solution to tackle one specific topic. So, for example, you have Yokogawa, for example. They offer a package solution to increase combustion efficiency for heaters. So you have all the sensors, pressure, transmitter, gas analyzers, flow meters, but you also have the software and the services. All the complete solution is offered by them. Yeah? So these are some of the highlights that I wanted to share with you. Yeah, not all the information is shown. You will receive all the detailed information with the document, with the research, if you want to have it. But I think it's still important to highlight some main ideas. So part of our quantitative study involved analyzing the market share by region, which can help solution providers to define where to focus their investments. Yeah, and the results is showing relatively balanced market share between Europe, North America, and Asia. Let me tell you why. So in Europe, we have more stringent legislation, yeah, that is driving companies, is pushing companies to invest much more, for example, in transitioning to alternative energy sources, much more on energy efficiency, and to develop products with a lower carbon footprint. But despite this, Europe is going through the chemical industry in Europe and especially in Germany is going through a crisis. So this is driving the share to a lower point. I was expecting to have Europe with a much larger share in this, but considering that we are talking about chemical industry, which is having a crisis here in Europe, then I think that's the reason why the share is smaller. On the other hand, we have Asia, and yeah, specifically talking about China. I will say it presents the opposite scenario. So China, it seems like it's more like a follower in terms of legislation, looking at what Europe is developing. But on the other hand, the market share for chemical industry itself in China is much larger. So at the end, it's also compensating. And this is why we see China there as one of the highest share. And finally, North America, and yeah, especially talking about United States, I will say it falls between Europe and China. And US legislation tends to be more state specific, like in California. And the region holds a higher market share on chemical industry itself. So I will say I think US has the largest share of the three of these big areas here. But you see that generally speaking is quite balanced with Latin America lagging behind. We also wanted to understand what is the share by the companies that we were considering in the scope. So which companies that are offering solutions or technologies related to decarbonization have the largest share in the market? Yeah. So we included around 20 companies in the quantitative study. I think the first five account for more than 50% of the total share. And I already received some comments about the type of companies that were mixed in this study. Maybe you're also thinking the same. How are we mixing companies with maybe different profiles, software companies, automation companies, with companies that are focused more on specific products? And keep in mind, this is because we focus on the solutions needed by the end users. Yeah, and not on specific technology. So end users, they say, I want to improve the performance of my compressed air system or my steam system or the energy efficiency. They are not thinking on a specific flow meter or on a specific transmitter. Yeah, so they are talking about the solution. This is why at the end we have somehow a mix of companies in the same study. Between all the companies, the one with the largest share is AspenTech, and specifically related to their sales on the process PSO software, the simulation and optimization, and energy efficiency software, which are directly related to decarbonization. And AspenTech is very strong also in the chemical industry. We also have other automation companies like Emerson, like Siemens, ABB, and Schneider Electric, together with Aviva, and all together they add up more than 50% of the share. So in the study, in the document, you can check specific data related to each technology. So which company has higher share on variable speed drives or sustainability consulting or energy meters, energy efficiency software, that kind of information. You will find it much more detailed in the study. But now we wanted to share some key highlights, I think, to give you an idea. And what about the market forecasts? How do we expect it to grow? So we estimated a general growth that is just below 10% for the technologies that we consider. So is this enough to reach net zero? I don't think so. Sadly, I don't think so. So we consider that we think that in the next 5 years, we should see a higher growth related to services and software more than hardware. And in relation to services, for example, so sustainability is becoming more a guideline that is defining the business strategies for companies. So we believe that chemical companies will start to look for more and more support from solution providers to help them understand where they are and how can they reach their goals as soon as possible. This is why we believe that sustainability consulting is going to grow faster, maybe than other technologies or the hardware revenue category, for example. Software, we're also expecting this to grow higher. We should see, for example, high growth in solutions related to carbon accounting. That's for sure, because more and more providers, they are starting to offer solutions that will help to accelerate this process and make them more accurate, more transparent. They are using new technologies like artificial intelligence or blockchain. And as governments are pushing companies to improve the way they are calculating and inform better their carbon footprint, I think for sure we will see a high growth for this solution as well. And what about the inhibitors or the contributors? What factors will change this growth that we are expecting? So first of all, the first thing we can think on is legislation. So the role of the government on this. The governments are for sure, they are contributing to the growth by pushing more for more structural changes, and they are helping to scale up new technologies. So I will give you some examples. For example, the US Bio Preferred program, which is obliging federal agencies to purchase bio-based products. So for sure, this will help the industry to scale these new technologies. Or we can mention also the Green Deal in Europe, specifically the eco-design for sustainable products regulation, which is pushing companies to better inform consumers about their carbon footprint. And these are ways, these are regulations that are pushing end users to further invest in lowering their carbon footprints of their products. On the other hand, a government is somehow also inhibiting the growth in this market because we believe that they need to balance the pressure they make on end users in order to control the increase in costs. Yeah. So as we said, green premiums are still high. Offering a product with lower carbon footprints will increase the cost of the products. And also increasing for example, the carbon tax for sure will increase the inflation. So government's also going, I think, slowly on that sense, controlling the price of the products. So something else that I think is inhibiting the investment in decarbonization, which I think is the fossil industry business inertia. And keep in mind, we are talking about more than $7 trillion per year business. There are millions of people working in this industry, and we have brownfield plants, even new plants, greenfield plants that are being installed that are planned to operate for many years already. So for sure, this is an industry. It has an inertia that it will be influencing, for example, decisions from government to stop the push that they are having on chemical companies to decarbonize. Scaling up new technologies. From one side, there are options that are helping to increase the growth, that are contributing to the growth. For example, there are solutions that are helping companies to transition to alternative fuels like green ammonia. This is an alternative useful because there is already an infrastructure to transport this fuel, let's say. So this is a good option for companies to lower their carbon footprint. There is of course, there is a major trend related to electric fuels, like hydrogen, for example. But scaling up has also its limitations, and on the other hand, it's also inhibiting the growth. So there is a big trend on electrification, for example, but we have a limitation on the grid system. So companies can invest on wind farms, offshore wind farms, solar panels, solar farms, but we need to also upgrade the grid. As long as this is not upgraded, then companies will limit their investment in electrification. There is also high risk because there are new technologies coming in, and the high risk are also limiting the investment on this. There's a lot of uncertainty. This is also inhibiting the growth on this. And finally, we want to put the consumer behavior. For sure, consumers can contribute to the growth on this market if they are consuming these products with lower carbon footprint. But today, I think this is very limited because as the green premiums are high, these alternative products have a higher costs. Most of the people are not willing to pay additional money for lower carbon footprint. That's the reality, and this is why somehow it's inhibiting the growth. So let me jump to the champions radar now. So the intention of the champions radar is to map the solutions offered by providers with specific need in the market. So it will help us to identify leaders in the market based on their solution capability, based on their experience level, and also the revenue is giving us an idea on how big they are in the market. The solution provider, for example, can use this study to understand how they compare to their competitors, identify weaknesses or strengths, and this is also a good exercise that I found while doing this research, because first we went and did our research by ourselves, then we validated with the solution providers what we found. It was a good exercise because sometimes we share things with them that they didn't know the company was offering actually, and also we were not finding things. I couldn't find that you're offering anything related to this. They were surprised about that. They found that actually it was not that clear in their webpage, in the way they communicate to the industry. So that was already, I think, a good exercise. And end users can also use this radar because, and the heat map that I will show you later on, I think especially that, because it will help them to identify maybe, to shortlist maybe solution providers, to invite, to see, to help them solve an issue that they have, a need that they have. I added this slide based on interaction that I already have with some end users that we are sharing the information. Most of them, they were asking me, okay, but how are you calculating this? They wanted to know, are all engineers, and maybe it's because of that, but they want to know what is behind this graph, how it is calculated. So hopefully I will show you I will say the factors that we consider. Hopefully it's not confusing you more, but at least you will have a rough idea. Yeah. basically, the location in the champions radar is defined by a combination of different factors. Yeah. So I show you all the items that were covered in the study, all the bubbles that I show you in the at the beginning while explaining the scope of work. These are all the items that we were covering in the study. We also weight each item, each application, each technology, each solution that we were considering, because we also wanted to provide a sense of how relevant they are to overcome the overall challenge. So, for example, the challenge is decarbonizing chemical industry. Um, what is the weight of fugitive leaks on that? Or what is the weight of decarbonization road mapping or energy efficiency or energy transition? So each of these applications had different weights based on our understanding. And then we evaluated each solution provider, the capability of each solution with a score, considering the hardware, the software, and the services they offer for each specific application, yeah, each specific solution that was required by end users. We also evaluated the experience level on that specific topic, and we assigned a score to that. And we finally added a confidence factor, and this confidence factor is based, so we asked them to provide lighthouse projects. Yeah. So if they were able to provide lighthouse projects for each of the information that they shared with us, when they say this is what we believe is our solution capability and experience level on this topic, then the confidence level factor, I will say, it goes high and high. Yeah. So something that I would like to highlight on this is that we actually did our research, and then we went and approached, I will say, most of the solution providers in the scope, sharing with them this is what we found, what do you think? And they help us also adjusting things and having further discussion. That was also a great exercise, at least for me personally. So hopefully this gives you an idea on how did we calculate this champions radar. So at the end, what are we doing? Again, a little bit, I think, repeating. So we pick up all these solution providers and we evaluate, we research what they were offering in relation to hardware, software, and services, and we evaluate the level of experience, their solution capability, and the revenue, and we map it with all the items, all the applications that were defined together with the end users. So what was the result? Keep in mind the information, there is some information hidden here. You will get more detail with the complete research, of course. But I can mention this. We identify three leaders, I would say, like Schneider Electric with Aviva, Siemens, and Emerson. And I think the reason is that they are able to provide solutions, yeah, software, hardware, and services for most of the applications that were covered in the scope. Yeah. Keep in mind this chart is considering all the applications together. Yeah, as I showed you in the previous slide, it's a combination of everything together. Is here. There is a more granulate representation of the results. In the next slide, I will show you. AspenTech is also, again, the company with the largest revenue, with the largest circle, we say, and also in the experience level. And this is because they are very well established in the chemical industry for decades already, providing software solutions like process simulation and optimization and solutions that are helping companies to improve energy efficiency that are directly related to decarbonization. Why they are not at the solution level? Because software is enabling you to achieve your objectives, but you still need those sensors, that hardware to finally execute all these improvements. Yeah. There is a group of companies also down there at the product level that they have a good experience, very good experience, I will say, for specific technologies that they offer. Yeah. These are the ones that you see. There are no companies at the next level area, because the companies will be here if they will be able to provide a high level, they will be able to provide software, hardware, and services for all the items covering the scope. So we do have leaders, but none of them are able to provide a complete solution for all the applications that were discussed with the end users. As I told you, there is a second level of representation of the results with a little bit more detail. And this is the heat map, and in this map we can see how strong the different companies are for each of the applications. So maybe there is a company that was not a leader but is very strong on a specific application, and this might be useful for end users that are not looking for a full solution, I would say, which is usually the case, but they are focusing on specific topics. Yeah. So we see that there are many companies that actually they have solutions related to decarbonization roadmap, and specifically on energy efficiency. And I think this is because of the type of companies we selected in the scope. But for example, treatment of byproducts and power to heat is covered by a limited number of companies. And I think there is an opportunity there, especially talking about power to heat solution. We found that power to heat is mentioned in many decarbonization roadmap of major chemical companies. So I think I'm not sure if it's a surprise that a few companies are offering solutions related to that, but I think there is an opportunity to further develop these solutions. Something similar happened to alternative feedstocks, help companies to test and use alternative feedstocks in their processes. I think there is an opportunity here. But there is a difference between power to heat, and it's because this might not be high priority right now. We see some huge lighthouse projects in the industry, but generally speaking, what we find in the decarbonization roadmaps is that companies are focusing today in energy efficiency and energy transition, because they are thinking on reaching net zero on scope 1 and 2 mainly, and they define their goals for 2030. After 2030, they need to, and if they achieve their goals, hopefully, they need to start heavily investing in technologies that will help them to mitigate scope 3. And at that point, yes, the usage of alternative feedstocks that have a lower carbon footprint will for sure be something that they will be looking for. There's something very similar is the treatment at the end of life. We actually have more companies that are strong on this. And here we are talking about advanced recycling, for example. We found companies, these companies that we cover in our scope, that they are actually offering solutions. Sometimes it's more about software and services rather than hardware, but still they are able to provide some support on that. So not sure how we are doing with the time. Yeah, okay, doing fine. So I will continue with some reflections based on what we learn from this journey. So let me first say this. Sustainability is not more buzzwords. There are real business opportunities around it. We see that end users and major chemical companies, especially, they define their roadmap and they are taking action upon that. Yeah. So there are real business opportunities around sustainability, and specifically for us, based on what we cover, we are talking about decarbonization technologies. Yeah. There is a race, as I mentioned at the very beginning of this presentation. So the first companies that will be able to provide products with lower carbon footprints at a competitive price, they will have a competitive advantage. And on the other hand, those that are not investing today in that, they will be losing share in the market in the upcoming years. So this is also something to keep in mind. More providers are moving towards sustainable solutions. We see that a lot. Personally, went to a different event this year, AGEMA, Hanover Messe. Everyone is translating their products into sustainability applications, a lot of hydrogen, energy efficiency, carbon emissions reduction. But I would say that a few are able to offer holistic solutions. And keep in mind that decarbonizing, or let's not decarbonize, but reaching net zero emissions for chemical industry will require a deep change, a transformation in their processes. So they need more holistic approach. Yeah. Sustainability service, as I mentioned to you, are expected to have higher growth. If you don't have sustainability services, or it's a small group, I will think on investing on that, increasing the capability of your team. Sustainability is transition from basic reporting to guide business strategies. Yeah, we see that in all the annual reports from chemical companies. Sustainability is a main concern. The carbon accounting software should have a higher growth. Today, you will see in the study, it has a very small revenue, but because of that, we would expect much higher growth for the upcoming years, especially for the upcoming years, where companies choose to start calculating much more accurately scope 1, 2, but also scope 3, yeah, which is quite complex to calculate. Energy solutions will have a high demand on the upcoming years. Energy efficiency solutions and energy transition. So as I told you, what we found also with our own research, checking the annual report from different major chemical companies, the first two steps are energy efficiency and energy transition, because they are thinking on scope 1 and scope 2. So these are the very first steps that they are taking. And IoT, ITOT, collaborative data solutions will enable to calculate return of investment related to decarbonization. This is a challenge for the companies to being able to demonstrate the return of investment or for these initiatives, and I think they are not able to actually reach the right data or to create the right information. Well, we're actually going to talk about this next week on an event for the IoT organization. This will be a topic that I will also be hosting. So what are the next steps? Not for only for ARC, also for you, what are the possible next steps? So For solution providers, for example, through the complete quantitative market research, you can identify segments that are expected to grow more. You will have much more detail on that study. And you can identify what are the leaders for each of the technologies that we cover. Yeah, so much more detail. As I told you, if you want to know who is offering, who has more share for sustainability consulting, what is the number of the market, what is the market size, or energy meters, or I don't know, projects, services, all the items that I show you in the scope of the quantitative study, you will have a specific calculation for that. It can help you, this study can help you to understand how is your company position in the markets and how you compare with the competitors. And for sure, you can use this information to define your next steps in relation to these opportunities that the sustainability topic is generating. And for end users, what could be your next steps? I think the Champions Radar and specifically more, I would say the heat map. It can help you to understand better the offering from different solution providers for very specific needs. So depending if you're looking for companies that will help you with the whole challenge that you have, you can use the Champions Radar, or you can use the heat map if you want to focus on more specific needs. But I think there is value there on those deliverables. What are the next steps from ARC? What are we planning to do? So I think the experience was very positive. It was the first time we do something like this, at least here in Europe, in ARC Europe. The experience was quite positive, and we are thinking on starting 2 new studies following the same approach. We will work on plastic circularity, which I believe will have a huge development in the coming years, and also study on electrification for mining industry, which I think there are also big opportunities there. So aligned with that, we are also planning 2 sessions on our next forum in Sitges in 2025. If you don't know, ARC organizes a European industry forum every year, and for the last, I don't know, 6 years, Mario, we did it in this beautiful place in Sitges, close to Barcelona.
Yes.
Next one will be on May. And in sustainability, we are planning to touch 2 topics. One session focus on circular economy, which is also aligned with the topic that I mentioned to you on plastic circularity, and the other one on energy transition. So why I wanted to share this with you, if you're interested in any of these topics that I'm showing here, because you want to learn more, or because you have experience to share, you want the industry to know more about your solutions, you can contact us and we can see how we can work together. As I told you, the study on decarbonization at the end, it's a study that was made in collaboration with ARC, end users, and solution providers. So this is an invitation for everyone. So if you are interested to learn more about this, here are also the contact details from Mario and myself.